Hi, everybody. So I'm just going to do a sound and video check. So if you guys can hear me, maybe just type, okay, perfect. And can you see a little video in the corner? Okay, so yes to the video and yes to the audio, all is good. Okay, that's fantastic. So welcome everybody. So just the last few people are just getting signed in now. So we'll just wait a minute or two to make sure we have everybody on for the trip. Promises to be quite an amazing evening tonight. I am so excited about this transmission. So people are still signing in. I'll just give people 2 more minutes. So where is everybody from? I see Carla is from Missouri, from France, Lawrence, Leslie, Vancouver, Albany, Ottawa, Toronto, Kansas, New Brunswick, Wisconsin, Indiana, Japan, Toronto, Newfoundland. Oh my gosh, it's coming so fast I can't read. Minneapolis. Wow, it's really from all around the world. Vancouver Island, New Jersey, Oregon, Utah, Germany, Norway, North Carolina, Australia, Duluth, Minnesota, Aurora. That's really incredible. So we'll go ahead and get started slowly then, and then the last few people can just get signed in as they come along. So a big welcome to this transmission. For those of you who are new to the transmissions, I'm going to introduce a little bit at the beginning what the transmissions are. And there's been a sequence of transmissions. I know many of you have been able to tune into some of the transmissions on YouTube. But we'll go over all that information as we go forward here so that everybody's up to date on what the transmissions are really all about, and to make sure you have access to the recordings of the prior transmissions as well. So the theme of this evening is an evening with the Hathors. And so I'm just going to introduce a little bit for people who are new to the transmissions, who the Syrian Blue-White Collective are, and the work, how they tie into the rest of the work that I do. So many of you know my work on some level, either through experience with Unity Field Healing or some of the other teaching programs that I have given about energy healing and consciousness-based healing. But last year in 2019, during a meditation, I was introduced to a group of light beings. And this group came in my third eye, in a vision in my third eye. And they formed into an array of beings that looks very similar to the little icon that you see in the middle of the screen. And they told me that their name is the Syrian, or they identified themselves as the Syrian Blue-White Collective. And they told me that they're a group of light beings that are present on the earth at this time and part of the ascension process that humanity is going through. And they're here in a very nurturing and supportive role. And they're the light beings that work behind the scenes, if you will, with Unity Field Healing. And many of you have been exposed to Unity Field Healing, so you know it's an energy work that works within the quantum field of DNA. That's part of our expanding energy system as humanity goes into this ascension process. And I've been working with Unity Field Healing for a number of years before this group introduced themselves to me. And so I was a little surprised when it happened. I knew there was a force of light beings that was working with us when we did these sessions, because the energy of the work is so powerful and so intense that I knew it was being supported spiritually. But it was a delight for me to actually encounter the beings that were working with us while we did this work. And so they told me that they are from the star system Sirius, and they're masters of DNA evolution, and they're intimately connected to Earth and humanity. And they've served spiritually for thousands of years during humanity's development and civilization. And Syrians have been on the earth, present on the earth many times in more and less conscious ways. So sometimes they were present in a way where humanity or civilization was conscious of who they were. And then other times they've been working behind the scenes to support the forward evolution of humanity. But they were more consciously present during times of Lemuria and also during other periods of time, such as in ancient Egypt. And they identified that they are masters of healing, DNA calibration, and ascension transformation, and that unity field healing is supported by this group of ascended beings. So they're with us when we do sessions or when we do our trainings. And they're also present when people are receiving attunements to become practitioners of the work. So that made me a little curious about who the Syrians were and what the Sirius star system is all about. And so I did a little research on Sirius and took a little bit of information from the internet and from a few other sources that explain to us in context what Sirius is. So Sirius is a star, and it's a star that is actually the brightest star in the Earth sky at nighttime. And it's in the Canis Major constellation. So for this reason, it's referred to as the dog star. So Canis is Latin for dog or canine. The star is 8.6 light years from the Earth. And it's considered in esoteric systems, like with the Rosicrucians and the Templars, as the god star for our galaxy. So these belief systems suggest that Sirius is somehow entangled with the Earth in a rotation in space, and that the life that's present on Sirius is intimately related to life present on the Earth. And there have been visitations from Syrian beings that are recorded. For example, the Dogon in Africa talk about the Sirius star system and that how there were a group of beings that came and taught them information about the Sirius star system thousands of years ago. And all the information was shown to be correct, even though there were, of course, no telescopes or those kinds of things to actually verify the information that they were taught thousands of years ago until the last 100 years. And so the information they were given way back when and have been taught as part of their indigenous teachings are accurate, even in a scientific way. And so there have been lots of historical connections with galactic beings and Sirius. And intuitively, I'm aware that the teaching lodge, what's referred to as the Great White Lodge, the Lodge of Healing and Teaching for Humanity, is through the Sirius star system. And so beings and the consciousness that's present in Sirius has come forth numerous times, during the periods of Atlantis and Egypt and pre-Sumeria time, and in the Maya in the Mexican area of what is modern day Earth. They were revered and referenced all the way back through the Vedas and through ancient Egyptian writings. And in Egypt, Sirius was revered as the Nile star. And it was so revered because it appeared in the sky on Earth just before the spring flood of the Nile River. And so the rising of the Nile was kind of indexed by the rising of Sirius. And then the Nile would flood with water and flood all the plains, and it would provide the vegetation for the entire civilization for the upcoming harvest season, for the summer months to grow the crops and then harvest them in the fall. And so it had a very earthly correlation to their dependence on the Earth. And they saw Sirius as a very important connected star to the Earth for that and for many reasons. And so now, as we go through this period of time, we're going through a process of ascension. And much of the teaching and information that was present at the time when Syrian beings have been on the Earth is coming back into our human consciousness at this point in time, because the information is critical or imperative for us to understand as we go through the ascension journey. And so there's a lot of people who have spoken of Syrian beings, who channel messages from Syrian beings. There's an intimate relationship between the dolphins and the whales, who carry the crystalline memory of the Earth and Sirius. And there's been established contact with many indigenous cultures when you ask them about their history of their relationship to star beings and these types of things. And the indigenous cultures will often refer to the Syrians as beings that teach us information on cycles, natural healing, earth-based healing, and star knowledge. And so there's a long record of humanity's relationship with Sirius. And the way I understand it in my own personal experience is that Sirius is kind of a vortex or a place through which consciousness passes as it comes to the earth. So it's almost like you could consider it the sun behind the sun. So just as our sun shines light on the earth, and the vegetation that develops and all the natural things that develop on the earth rely on the presence of the sun to stimulate growth and development, Sirius is like the star behind our sun. So it would feed energy and information to our star and our sun and the whole solar system. And information is channeled into the earth because of our direct quantum connection or relationship with the Sirius system. With all of the changes in the alignments of the grids that are happening on the planet that we'll talk about in a minute, our connection with Sirius is being reinforced, if you will, or reestablished. And so we're becoming much more conscious of this connection. And so this all started to make sense to me after they presented and kind of told me that they are the light beings that are working behind the work of Unity Field Healing. And so in August of last year, I was guided through an intuition to begin to create a series of events that have become known as the Ascension Transmissions. And I was told they would be very powerful gatherings that are meant to catalyze both healing and ascension transformation by creating coherence within a collective field. And that the Syrian Blue-White Collective will be present during these transmissions. And so I was given the name of the first 3 transmissions at that point in time. And so this is going back now to October, November, and December of last year. And the first transmission was called the inaugural transmission, and then there were 2 diamond light body integrations. And the essence of these early transmissions, the first transmission was like a process of anchoring a new potential. Through the transmission and the meditation, there was an anchoring of an energy and a quantum template that was connecting the people that are intimately connected to the process of the transmission. So it's almost like creating a field in which the transmissions would take place. And so it was a very beautiful experience, very powerful for people that attended. And these first 3 transmissions were done in person. They were only live events. There was no video recording and no broadcasting of these transmissions. But I did record the actual transmission element of these 3 evenings. And so they're part of the videos that are available on the YouTube channel, which I'll talk about in a moment. The next series of transmissions they come to me in groups of 3. The next 3 were referred to as Journey to the Temple of Ascension, the Star Mothers Collective Empowerment, and Unification. And what was interesting is as I began to work through these transmissions, I'm not given a lot of information about the transmission until we're actually doing it. So I'm given the names in groups of 3. As we do the transmissions, the essence or the energy, the information that is pertinent to that transmission is kind of revealed in real time. So for example, going into this evening, I have very limited awareness of what we're going to experience as we go into the transmission. I'm given enough information to prepare, but much of it remains a mystery to me, just like it is to you as we go into each evening. So that takes a little bit of faith on my part, but it always works out extremely well, as you'll see. And so the first 3 transmissions were about setting the foundation and then beginning to prepare the light system of people who were participating in the transmissions. So it's almost like we were receiving an upgrade or an empowered alignment to be able to continue the work of going forward into the transmissions. And this is why I was told to record them and to make them available. And so I have a philosophy very similar to Lee Carroll, where anything that comes as a transmission or a channeling, I honestly believe is meant to be available for anybody who wants to be exposed to it. And so the transmissions take a form where I do a whole teaching, and there's a lecture presentation and all this type of thing. The presentation is really just for people who are attending the event. But the energetic part of it and the channel part of it, I make available to anybody on YouTube. And so there's a whole sequence of these videos on my YouTube channel, which is under John Ryan Unity Field Healing, if you search it on YouTube. And you can subscribe to the channel, and you'll see a list of all the transmissions, and I will continue to post them as we go forward. Not the teaching part, but just the transmission part. And so the first three transmissions were all about a personal energetic development. The fourth transmission took an interesting turn because all of the other transmissions, we could feel the Syrian light beings as if they were coming down to earth and joining us energetically. In the fourth transmission, we were all lifted in our etheric energy body and brought to a temple of energy ascension in the Sirius star system. And so in an energetic way, we were all lifted up to this higher space, experienced a transformation, and then brought that energy back down into our body. And so it's like we were making a bridge between our empowered energy system and a higher level or ascended level of potential. And it was at this point that the star mothers started to come in to the transmissions. And the fifth transmission was referred to as the Star Mothers Collective Empowerment. And this was a remarkable event because what happened in it, in the transmission, was the Star Mothers from all of the star systems that have been part of creating civilizations that have been precursors to the Earth. They all came as a collective. So it's like our star mothers, the Pleiadian star mothers, for those who are familiar with that. And then the star mothers prior to them were all present in this transmission. And what they showed us is at the beginning of a new civilization, a civilization that has the potential to become an ascended civilization, the DNA transfer, the quantum DNA that is prepared to empower that civilization, is prepared by the star mothers before the civilization is commenced. And so when the star mothers transfer the divine or quantum element of the DNA to the civilization that is about to go through its initiation process into become what is a divine civilization or a potentially ascended civilization, the DNA is prepared. And the way they did this was they sang and prepared a template of energy. And during this transmission, the mothers sang into the template that was prepared eons ago for the development of the earth. And so it was almost like they were reactivating the quantum DNA template that serves the human race. And so it was from top down, if you will. It was a really high level empowerment of our quantum DNA access. And the transmission that followed it is referred to as unification. And I didn't know the flow of how things would work because I don't know from transmission to transmission what's going to happen in the one before it. In unification, what ended up happening was we all were taken through the DNA and through our heart chakra up through the quantum axis of our DNA to connect with the energy that was sent down from the earlier transmission. And in the process of merging these two energies, it was to help clear from the quantum field of DNA that each one of us carries the restrictions or the elements of blockage that may exist within our own personal DNA system on a very personal level. And what that means is anything in the past you've lived or an alternate lifetime that you've lived, you would have a restriction if there was a large emotional energy around it or a charge that caused you to shut down in your system. So for example, if you were imagine if you were a healer and you were abused for being a healer or murdered or that type of thing. It would cause you to become afraid and to shut your energy system down so the light in you wouldn't be seen. And so what happened through all of our lifetimes is we've all lived constellations of experiences that have the tendency to make us want to close down our energy system and to restrict the light and to restrict the energy that moves through us. But the consequence of that is it disempowers us. So the process of unification was helping to open up these restrictions within the quantum DNA axis. And it's similar to the work that happens in unity field healing. It all begins to tie together. The star calibration was the sixth transmission, and it was a really beautiful transmission. And I thought going into this transmission that what we would experience is everybody would find a personal relationship with a star or maybe a couple of stars. So in other words, say for example, you have a soul history that goes back to Sirius or to the Pleiades, you would connect to star systems that are related to your own personal development. And that was only one tiny little element of what happened. In a fuller picture, what happened was everybody was brought into a communal quantum grid. And from the grid, everybody's energy brought extensions from the Earth system to multiple star systems, which are connected to the Earth and her evolution. And so it was creating a portal of energy and a field of energy where the Earth could begin to receive consciousness, information, and energy from other star systems that are going to be very, very critical in the forward movement of the Earth into what we would call the ascension status. So imagine if there's technological information or spiritual information from other star systems that are tied into where the Earth is going as we move through this ascension process. This grid was almost like creating a place to store all this information. And so we were punching holes, if you will, in the veil and bringing energy and information into the crystalline matrix of the Earth so that all of humanity could access this information. And say, for example, you know, if there are young people working in science and they're going to be the people who develop you know, clean technology and this type of thing. If we bring the information into this crystalline field through this connection, it's almost like they can reach out in their intuition and in their mind and have access to this information to really begin to bring these higher levels of physics and spirituality and understanding that'll help the Earth move forward in this way. So in an interesting way, it was a personal calibration, but it was really the opportunity to work as a group and to do something for the whole of humanity by empowering this grid that carries within it the potential to house information that will support the forward momentum of the planet. And so as we step into the new energy and the expression of being the new human, then this grid of energy will become extremely important in that. So today we're going to have an evening with the Hathors. And this puzzled me a little bit because I don't always see the sense of flow, like how these transmissions are really all connected. When I started to give the names and understand what was happening, I found it was a little all over the place. I didn't quite see the line or the communication. But you'll see as we go into this evening and what the Hathors are coming to do, it will make sense. It's a very beautiful understanding that will develop. So let's go forward with that. So in terms of the Syrian Blue-White Collective, they've been telling us since they've started these transmissions that the year that we are living in will bring unprecedented changes. But they were very discreet about the nature of these changes. And they told us there will be shifts that will begin to cause planetary reflection, and you will be called upon to hold a higher consciousness. They told us then they are here to support us in this transition, and they keep telling us to be aware of our personal state of consciousness and learn to return to the center of your being and to consciously hold peace. So these words have been repeated over and over in the various channelings and transmissions that have been given. But I think as we move through this time of COVID and we understand some of the things that are starting to happen on the planet in a very 3D way, the words become even more powerful. And so that at first you might say, well, if they knew this was all coming, why didn't they tell us? But it's not important that they tell us what's going to happen. It's important that they tell us how to live through what's happening, because there are so many things that have been catalyzed to begin to change on the planet. And the process of the COVID-19 phenomena is only one of them. There are many, many, many things that are happening whose ultimate goal is to drive humanity forward in consciousness, to begin to build a world that's based on a much higher principle of consciousness and energy, what we would term an ascended civilization. So the pathway to get there from where we were and where we are is fraught with all kinds of experiences. And we have to have a lot of trust and faith and certainty of spirit within us to know that what's happening, no matter how it appears on the screen of reality, will serve ultimately a much higher purpose than is evident in the simple early experience of what it brings. And I think COVID can really be understood in that light. So as we look around, I always like to put this little slide in as a joke. Things appear to be getting serious. And they are getting serious, but in a very beautiful way. So it's a trying time, it's a difficult time. However, despite that, many, many important things are happening under the surface or under the radar of common consciousness, or the things you might hear or understand in the news. So this is the best advice. It's even though a lot is changing, a lot is happening, just stay calm within yourself. There's a paradigm shift going on. Just know that. And I love this beautiful image on the left. It kind of shows this desolate scene, and you climb to the top of the wall, and everything behind this side of the wall is kind of falling apart or breaking down. And yet over the wall, there's a whole universe awaiting, with all kinds of new experience and new information for us. And I really see this to be representative of where we are on the earth today. So much of the old patterns of consciousness and human relationship and just the ways of being a human being are falling apart. And as a collective, many of us have been hoping for this in some way for many, many years, probably since the time you were a child, and even going back other lifetimes before this one. You've known there's a higher potential for beings to live together, for humanity to live together in a way that's based in peace and respect and brotherhood, and that we can build a world that has a morality and principles that are so much superior in many ways to what we have known the past to be. And as we leave the old cycle of the dark light energy and we move into a state of ascended consciousness, there's a period of dismantling all the structure that's based on the old energy paradigm. So the world in some ways is crumbling beneath our feet, but that doesn't mean it's disappearing or we're going through something that is dark or terrible. It's an adjustment. And so our job is to really be the lighthouse, as they say. You don't have to engage in it in a way where you lose your own serenity and the wellness inside your being. In fact, it's paramount to understand that and to give yourself the opportunity always to be in that state of peace and serenity. Let the world change in the ways it needs to change. And you keep showing up in the world in a way that reflects the dignity, the serenity, and the love, the majesty of your own spiritual presence. And that's what we're being taught as we go through this time. And when you really grasp that, when you really let that sink in, you understand how powerful what we are living really, really is, and what an opportunity this time on the planet is presenting to us. Very, very important. So the process ties into other energy touchstones. And so many of you know about the ascension process. We've talked about this in some of the earlier transmissions, but the Earth is going through a cycle of time where there's a whole period of consciousness that's coming to a close. And this is reflected in spiritual teachings of many cultures where they talked about the end times and December 21st, 2012, and in the Cryon teachings and the harmonic convergence of 1987, which kind of represented a measurement of consciousness to see if the Earth would be able to sustain the forward momentum into an experience of an ascended civilization or reality. And the outcome of that was that we are. And the simple way of thinking about that is was there enough love present in humanity on the planet to begin a very rapid cycle upward into an ascended human civilization? And so as we go into this next period of change, the energy of the earth is changing. And we're part of a system that's so much bigger than we really understand. The earth doesn't go through this ascension alone. The earth is part of a solar system, which is part of a galaxy, which is part of a universe. And so the earth is moving into a new field of energy where if you look at galactic movements of planets and stars, you start to witness a cycle or a pattern of movement where the various elements of the galaxy are in certain positions of energy at different points in time. And so as we go into this new cycle of time, the earth is moving into a different field of energy. And people talk about it as the photon belt or an ascended field of energy. And so the earth is being bombarded with new energy and new information. And it's why the timing of this is so critical. The earth had to be ready to receive new energy, a higher level of energy and consciousness. And so in order to do that, humanity had to have ascended to a certain level of vibrational presence. And so the harmonic convergence defined that. It was decided that the earth is capable of doing that. And so everything was set into motion to begin the change into the new energy system and the new time. And so the first part of that was a readjustment of the magnetic grid. And we can think of the magnetic grid on the planet as the electromagnetic force that holds the earth together and draws energy into our energy system. So it's almost like a pull on universal energy or galactic energy that controls and regulates the flow of energy into the earth as an energy system. So Cryon, when he came to find himself as the magnetic master, that was part of a whole collective of beings whose job it was at the beginning to readjust the electromagnetic grid of the planet. And all of that was simply a preparation so that when 2012 arrived, the energy of the earth would be able to begin receiving this new field of energy that we were moving into. And starting in 2012, Cryon began teaching us about other elements of the energy system of the earth. And he talked about the crystalline grid and the nodes and nulls that are part of the interface of the crystalline grid with what we call the Gaia grid or the earth grid. And these nodes and nulls are paired energy portals that have the capacity to pull new energy in and release old energy, almost like a pump, like you vacuum the energy in and you pump out the old and you pull in the new. And so the nodes and nulls were slowly being activated between December 2012 and December of 2019. And the last pair of nodes and nulls were named and activated in December of 2019. So you can see as the Earth stepped into 2020, the energy system was highly prepared for a very rapid forward movement into this new energy that we keep talking about. And so as this energy opened, the Earth's energy system was changing and beginning to become a foundation for an ascended civilization. And human beings are also going through their own energy process. And on an individual level, the way we do this is through a recalibration within our own quantum DNA system. And so the work of unity field healing that was taught to me through a series of visions is working with a light template that works within the quantum field of DNA that's part of this recalibration process. Things that happened along the way is in June 2016, I went to an event in Arkansas, and I was told to think of this event and the energy changes of that point in time as the birth of the Diamond Mother template. In other words, it was an energy grid that has the capacity to develop, to hold the things that are going to be birthed into being. So we can think of it as the foundational crystalline energy that will serve as the foundation for the new world. And this template of energy, or this field of energy, will be the field that holds and nourishes this new world into being. And in February, of 2020, when we went through this DNA activation, it was the star mothers who came to be with us for this particular activation. And so you can kind of begin to see how the forward movement of the earth, the crystalline changes that are taking place on the earth, and the crystalline changes that are taking place within humanity as we awaken to our own star origins, or our own divinity, if you will, are all tied together. And we're beginning to clear the energy space between our human experience, our human life, and the greater galactic connection that we each hold as a family of star beings or light beings. And so the star calibration process in April was an activation of a template that is beginning to hold energy and information within this awakening crystalline grid. So you can imagine you have this whole field of potential storage, like a library where you can hold information. And the star calibration, the grid or the template that was activated during that process, is like downloading a library of information into this crystalline field to make it available for humanity to go to begin to access knowledge and information that was very, very difficult to access before all these other changes started to take place on the planet. So the more we go forward, the easier that process is going to become. And so this grid, you can think of it as like a library that has information about all kinds of things: spiritual healing, education, science, astronomy, the galactic connection, or humanity's connection with the star beings, so on and so forth, earth healing, technologies to help clean up the pollution on the earth, and all these kinds of things. All of this is present in this higher field, this library, if you will, that's being integrated into the crystalline grid. And so when the Hathors came along next, I thought, well, how does this fit together? Like, where are we going with this process? And so that's where we are tonight. It's a long explanation, but I kind of have to take you through that whole journey to really understand the power of what's happening as we enter into these transmissions, and to serve as the foundation for what we'll be doing with the Hathors. So tonight's transmission is an evening with the Hathors. And so when I started to prepare the presentation, I did a little Google search on the Hathors. Now, I'm told often not to do that, really, not to go seeking information or to read material. And I understand the purpose of that is it taints your perception. When you're told things by other people, or you receive sources of information from others, you have to filter it through your own system to kind of get a sense of whether there's a validity to it, or whether it's harmonious with what you believe energetically, or what you hold within your own energy structure. But I've always appreciated and loved the work of Tom Kenyon, who I knew has a connection with the Hathors. And he does events and music where he channels these otherworldly tones and sounds from the civilization of the Hathors. And this is what they told him about who they are. They are a group of interdimensional, intergalactic beings who were connected in ancient Egypt through the temples of the goddess Hathor, and were present as well in several other prehistory cultures. And what he means by that is there are civilizations on the planet of which we have no documented record. So places on the earth today that are being uncovered, like Göbekli Tepe and civilizations like that, actually predate Sumerian civilization. And we're starting to understand that we're discovering civilizations that are layered underneath the current layer of reality. They were here at a time that we don't even have a recorded history of. And so the Hathors have been present during these types of civilizations as well. And they explain their own nature is energetic and interdimensional. I was very surprised to read this. We originally came from another universe by the way of Sirius, which is a portal to your universe. And from Sirius, we eventually proceeded to your solar system and the etheric realms of Venus. And so the Hathors are a civilization, an advanced civilization of beings who have a high consciousness, that know how to work with things that we are beginning to refer to as quantum. And so they're interdimensional or they're intergalactic, and they can work in fields of energy that are so transcendent to what we understand in our very elementary science and physics that we know today on the earth. And so the one thing I wanted to discuss a little bit was the difference between the seeing the Hathors as a race of beings versus a goddess, Hathor as a goddess and Hathor as a race of beings. And so in ancient Egypt, Hathor was known as the Great One of Many Names. And her titles and attributes were so numerous as a force or a goddess force that she was important in every element of life and death to the ancient Egyptians. She was personified or considered a personification of the Milky Way, the beltway of stars that we see when we see our own galaxy on a parallel plane. And we see this when we look into the night sky and see the array of the Milky Way, which is formed of these stars, and was considered to be the milk that flowed from the udders of a heavenly cow. And as time passed, she absorbed the attributes of many other goddesses, but became very closely associated with Isis. And it was explained who to some degree usurped her position as the most popular and powerful goddess. And I find that kind of a funny statement, because when you understand spiritual systems, there's no such thing as an usurping. Isis would be an extension of the consciousness of Hathor. She was a sky goddess known as Lady of the Stars and Sovereign of the Stars. And so everything that was beautiful, maternal, nurturing was somehow brought back in consciousness to Hathor as the goddess. And so beauty, music, celebration, sacred sexuality, love, everything about the beauty of life was under the umbrella of Hathor. And so the beautiful music and celebrations and ceremonies and events would all be under the auspices, if you will, of the consciousness of Hathor. But when you probe really, really deeply into the Hathor consciousness, what you begin to understand is that she represents the universal mother. And so I began to see the connection between the star mothers, the unification, and the next part of the transmission, which is a conscious communion or communication with the Hathors. These beings, as a civilization, live at the level of consciousness or the level of vibration. And it's beautiful to begin to see how all this ties together. It's really phenomenal. And like you, I'm learning as I go along, because these bits and pieces of information really become clear as we move forward. So it's amazing to understand that. Now, oops, sorry. So the Syrians and the Hathors begin to work together in this transmission. And so what we begin to understand is that there are many light beings, many ascended civilization systems that are working with us in this ascension paradigm that we're going through. And they are working with us in an interdimensional way. And the interdimensional fields of energy are systems of highly organized energy. And we're going to be working tonight, as you'll see as we go forward, in creating a field of highly coherent energy that's being supported by the Hathors and by the Syrian Blue-White Collective, as well as the soul of each and every person that is participating now or in the quantum future in the transmissions. And when you start to understand that, you realize that sound is one mechanism for the transfer of energy. And the Hathors are often connected to sound, to sacred sound. And so sound by voice or sound by production, things like crystal bowls, Tibetan bowls, these sounds that create pure tones and highly harmonic expressions of sound become like little vectors. It's almost like sound can be used to transfer and to organize energy. And so sound can be used to create a field of consciousness. And so the Hathors worked very knowledgeably with sound, particularly sound as a force of healing, because they would know how to create fields of energy that would be such high vibrational resonance that anything brought into contact with the energy would be influenced by the energy field. And you can think about this in simple terms where, for example, if you go to a place that's known to be sacred, like a beautiful church, say the Chartres Cathedral, or some sacred place on the planet like Machu Picchu or Uluru in Australia or Hawaii, when you go into fields of energy that are really powerfully printed with historically balanced energy, you feel the influence of the energy. It's almost like you walk into that temple and you feel the peace that has been nurtured by the presence of prayer or song or celebration in that space. And so when you create a field of interdimensional energy, it's creating a field or a temple, if you will, of light that you don't necessarily see. But as the energy comes close in contact with your energy system as a human being, your quantum DNA field and your physical body, it's as if the energy field sings to you. Because these living fields of quantum energy that can be created it's like they will sing a sound or send out a vibration. And so these fields come into resonant contact with us, and it's like they're transferring energy by Wi-Fi or by a system of immediate transference that transcends words or thoughts or verbal explanations. And that's why the transmission part of the events is so important, because it's when the energy comes in, sings to us in some way, and it assists us in moving forward in our own individual and personal process. And so as we've gone through the earlier transmissions, they help us rise up the ladder, if you will, in terms of your quantum state. And the Hathors are part of this group of beings that are coming forward to help us in this way. And so it all starts to make a little bit more sense. Sorry, I'm just having a little trouble with my mouse here. So tonight, when we go into the transmission, we're going to do a meditation that's overlighted by both the Syrians and the Hathor beings. And it's to experience an immersion in a quantum field that's being created purposely for this transmission. And the purpose of the field is to consciously nurture each and every one of us into a field of higher quantum coherence. So all of the transmissions that we have done up to now, on some level, have been doing that. But this is like a step up in the power. The Hathors are coming in, and the Hathors and Syrians together will work with us in a way that's individual, if you will, or tailored to your own soul's history and your own energy system. And so they are here to empower the collective creation of a quantum field that will resonate individually upon our human energy system, with the purpose of moving us forward and nurturing us into a more permanent state of higher quantum coherence. So you can kind of think of it as a field that's helping us reset our energy system to what would be termed a higher level. I put all these words in quotes because they sound judgmental when we talk higher and lower, but higher is a vibrational term. When you're in a state of highly coherent, balanced radiance, you are at a higher level of vibration than when you're angry and upset and knocked off balance and distorted by all the things we all know too well as human beings. And so it's helping us move our energy field into a place where we begin to exist, not just visit, but exist at that higher level of vibration. And it's to remind us of what it feels like to be in this higher space of being, so that we can anchor a conscious awareness of it. And that anchor, that the awareness serves as an anchor. It's almost like we can remain attached to it, or it gets easier to create and to hold on to, because we are becoming more consciously aware of what it is that we're feeling in those moments in time. So it's not just simply meditating to go into a higher energy, it's meditating to go into the field of quantum energy that will support us in living in that energy. So when you walk out of your meditation, you are in the same vibrational state as you are while you're in the meditation. And this introduces us to the concept of mastery. And so you'll see how it's moving us forward when we take a look a little bit later at the theme for the next transmission. So to better understand this quantum field, we're going to take a look at two ideas. We're going to take a look at the concept of cymatics, and we're going to take a look at sacred geometry. Not in depth, we're just going to introduce this so that you can understand how the Hathors can work with us to help us create this quantum field that we're talking about and we're going to experience as we go into the transmission. So cymatics is the study of visible sound and vibration. And what is what cymatics is the ability to use, okay, let's go back a little bit. To produce a cymatic vision, what you do is you take a metal plate and you put on it a substance that can move, like sand or water, an expression of form that has the capacity to move and arrange itself. And then what happens is you send sound or energy through the plate so that it will affect the medium. And what happens is the energy creates standing wave patterns. And the patterns interface with each other in a way where the material on the plate begins to move, so it organizes itself in a pattern that represents the standing wave pattern that's formed. And so if you have just a flat plate of sand, as you move sound through the template, it will change into these beautiful geometries like you see here on the right side picture. And so the sound moving through the plate makes the sand move, and eventually it moves into a pattern that represents the standing wave pattern of that particular sound. When you understand this, you realize you could use coherent sound to produce an organizational influence on energy field. All of this sand is moving by an invisible force. The energy that's moving the sand and creating the pattern that produces the 3D manifestation is not seen. You don't see the energy, you only see the 3D outcome. And so this is true on a cymatics plate in this way, but it's also true all the way back to the beginning of the entire universe. And so when we look at spiritual systems, we're always taught in the beginning was the word or sound. And sound sends into creation a field of energy that becomes the foundation on which that civilization or that world or that universe can exist. And so if you have ever explored Eastern systems of healing, you've probably heard of the word Om. And Om is described as the primordial sound. It's the sound at the beginning of the universe. And so the sound Om is the sound that set the entire universe into motion to begin to have an experience outside of the void of all being. And so Om creates, like a cymatic pattern, it creates a living field upon which the force of life can experience itself. We'll take a look. I know that's a big concept, but we'll come back to it in a sec. Because of this invisible field of energy is behind everything we see in physical form. And the science that discusses how this is so is referred to as sacred geometry. And in sacred geometry, we learn that there are these basic solids. There's 5 of them, the tetrahedron, called the Platonic solids, the tetrahedron cube, octahedron, dodecahedron, and icosahedron. And that these are the basic primordial structures of balanced creation. They're the energy patterns, the fields of energy that can form, that can exist as the field of energy that hides behind the manifest universe or things that we manifest in a physical way. And they operate on the golden mean ratio, which is kind of anointed down here to the left, where you see the proportions of the golden mean ratio, where things flow into being and flow out of being in this proportion that's defined by the golden mean. Now, again, I know this is a whole science that we're not going to go into the technical part of it, but I just want you to kind of take a look at the sunflower pattern here, or this vortex that we see in energy to the right. And you begin to see how there's a patterning in the invisible energy, or what we term the quantum energy. And this creates fields of energy that exist internal to physical things. The physical earth, the solar system, a sunflower, your physical body, everything that exists in the earth world, but everything that exists in the universal world as well. So sacred geometry it's like studying the light pattern, or the energy of formation that exists behind the physical world of creation. And so the patterning of Om, here, sorry, I have to go down here. The geometry is become very popular these days because human consciousness is waking up and starting to connect to this and understand this. And so you've probably all seen the flower of life pattern, or Metatron's cube, and you begin to see how all the geometries, the star tetrahedron, which is going to become really important to us as we move forward, all these other patterns can be derivatives of Metatron's cube, which you can kind of see as an embedded force of patterning in the flower of life. So the flower of life is like the mother of all creation. And so this pattern is a geometry that can give birth to, or be the pattern that gives derivative to, all these other geometries that can come into form. And in ancient civilizations, you can see why this was such a revered pattern of consciousness. And it's present on the wall in the Osirian, in Abydos, in Egypt, going back thousands and thousands of years. It also shows up in ancient Oriental cultures and Hindu cultures and so on and so forth, because it's been recognized as a primordial pattern of sacred geometry dating back to a time of this kind of knowledge. So this pattern, this golden mean ratio and the fractals that flow out of it, it shows up in nature in all kinds of ways. But it's really well appreciated if we just stop and take a look at how the geometry is expressed in the world of natural form. So you can kind of see how over and over the golden mean ratio is represented. There's fractals that flow out that are in a golden mean ratio to the one before it. There's an array of life that gets smaller or bigger depending on which orientation we're going. And the derivatives of the geometry that can be the force field of energy behind these creations are all derivatives of the flower of life. So it's very complex, but I'm trying to simplify it a little bit so we can understand how beautiful and how powerful that really is. Now, we talked a minute ago about Om, and we expressed how Om was the primordial sound. It was the sound that the Creator made when the universe was beginning. And as Om was sounded into being, it created a massive field or array of quantum potential, all kinds of standing wave interface patterns that could represent a grid or a web or a network upon which life could be created and sustained. And we're told by the ancient sages that if the universe or the Creator ever stopped sounding Om, the entire universe would involute or collapse on itself. And so Om is the primordial sound of creation, and it's the template of energy on which the entire structure of the universe, including our solar system, our Earth, and our physical body, is all manifest. So it's pretty cool when you kind of really grasp what that means. If you make the sound Om on a cymatic plate, it forms a geometry or a yantra that's known as the Sri yantra. And so here's the sound Om. This is the symbol for Om. This is the Om sounding into creation. If this were put on a cymatic plate, like it is here to the right, what you begin to see form is a pattern. This is Om on a cymatic plate or a tonoscope. And so Om passing through the plate, what happens in the energy field is it begins to take form in the coherence of a pattern that is represented in this yantra structure. And this yantra has been known in Tibetan drawings and Hindu drawings all the way back through time, and probably even before that, because it's such a primordial symbol of the vibrational reality of our universe and our life. And so when we work with sound, if we are collectively all toning together and we tone the sound Om, in the space where we are doing this, we are patterning the energy in a quantum way, the same way sound would pattern the energy in the cymatic plate. So if we Om collectively and we produce this sound over and over, we create a field of resonance in the space around us that's patterned on this form of geometry. And if this form of geometry is aligned with the primordial pattern of geometry, you begin to understand that if it resonates with your energy system, it has the potential to reset your energy system to that pattern of energy. So if we Om and we are in resonance with Om, our physical body can begin to restructure itself on a level of energy back into resonance with the Om vibration. And so this is kind of, in a very elementary way, the science behind why sound and music can be so powerful in healing and in creating. So when we bring our body into an energy field of highly organized sound, we are introducing it to a field that has the capacity to bring healing into the physical form by resetting the energy behind the physical form. So it's a little hard to do an experiment when we're at all different parts of the world, but just take a minute, because we are all connected in consciousness, and each one of us just breathe in and express this sound Om. And we'll do it together now collectively. So breathe in. Om. And before you open your eyes, just take a minute to register how it feels to be in that vibration. You can type a little comment in the chat box and just share. How did you register that? Calm, serenity, limitless stillness. My whole body's alive, peaceful, grounding, expansive, feels like coming home, sacred. So you see that as we do this, as we bring our system into higher coherent vibrational fields of energy, the impact it can have on us. Now, tonight, when we go into the meditation, the Hathors are going to come and join us. They're going to work with us to create a highly organized, coherent field, just like we did when we created the Om sound in our own collective space. And they can work from a place of a much higher understanding than we have as human beings. They have quantum awareness. So they're going to help us create a field of energy through their quantum structuring. They're going to create a field of energy and bring it into resonance with our energy system. And so we're really in for a treat as we go forward into that meditation, I think. I'm sure you agree. And so this is just a beautiful illustration of the light flowing through this geometry by Daniel Holman. I love this picture. And you can see that we can work with it from knowledge, we can work with the pattern from understanding its yantra, and then we can begin to understand it as a living quantum field of light. And so we exist in this quantum field of light, in this space of energy and consciousness. And we are beginning to learn to go into it and to work in it. And it's amazing to understand what we're doing when we begin to work quantumly with energy this way, because our healing is so amplified and our capacity to move forward in our own ascension journey is so amplified as we become aware. Now, we begin to understand that there's a higher dimensional order that exists behind all energy. Everything we see has an energy field behind it. There's a new crystalline order that's being instilled on the planet Earth. And the ascension for us is part of the journey into the integration of that energy. And so much of what happens in terms of change and transformation is because the internal ordering energy is being changed. And so what builds itself and what is sustained upon that grid of energy has to match the vibration of the new energy structure. And it's a simple thing to say, but it's so profound when you really grasp the meaning of those words. There's a new installation of crystalline energy that is collectively being implemented on the earth. And it is the presence of this energy field that is driving, if you will, or moving humanity forward into ascension status. And so now we understand this is part of a divine plan. It's part of a plan whose time is now. And we're just at the very, very beginning of this transformation. But when you grasp the profundity of that, you start to realize that everything that happens on the planet from this day forward is somehow connected to this transformational journey. And so for example, we were talking earlier about COVID and how that's a human event. It's an experience happening on the planet. It's negative and difficult in all the ways that it is, but it's part of a forward momentum. And we're going to use this experience, whatever its nature is, to bring humanity forward and to rise in consciousness and to rise in human expression. And so you can see how this is an experience that's fundamentally changing the way humanity is living for a while. There's a reset happening. People are having to quiet down. They're having more personal time. You're facing fears that you may have. You're experiencing the opportunity to be supportive and loving with people who may be in a state of fear. Everybody is living all kinds of experiences around it. And the potential is there for us to use this experience to enhance our spiritual mastery. And when you get that, you realize it's a very powerful thing. It's amazing. In fact, it's kind of a strange blessing in disguise if we use it to its fullest potential. And so it's happening as part of a big process, but there's an inner energy that's changing, that's driving it. And so I just put a couple of these pictures up to kind of open your mind and open your consciousness to experiencing the quantum level of energy. It's the level of energy we don't see every day unless you have started to develop quantum sight, unless you see energy things. But the energy that is building on the planet, there's like a mold of energy or a form of energy that's being introduced on the planet as this new world is constructed within the matrix of the energy of the old. And so there's a push-pull process. There's an energy that's pushing the energy structure forward, and then it's being held back by the energy structure that exists. And it's like the waves lapping on the shore. The energy pushes up and it comes back down, and it pushes up and it comes back down. But bit by bit, this wave of energy is giving birth to and bringing in a whole new potential and ultimately a whole new world. And so the very nature, the very energetic nature of reality of the earth is being changed as we go through this transformation. And if you look at yoga in a spiritual sense, I mean, today yoga is very popular, and in some ways it's a physical activity. You can go and do stretching and all kinds of things that are really good for your body. But if you go deeper into an understanding of yoga, it's not simply movement or motion in the body that's good for stretching and opening up the energy in the body, which it is. it's also a time to be in union with the divinity that is within your own being, and being in presence of that energy, and then doing the yoga, doing the stretching, doing the breathing, doing the things that may be part of a yoga practice, while you are consciously merged with the energy of the divine. And so the transmissions that we're doing are yogic in that sense. We're going into meditative spaces where we're connecting with an energy field that's changing from transmission to transmission. But as we make contact with the energy field, we are working in a yogic way. We're allowing our body and the earth we live on to be in contact with this energy and help bring it or give birth to the potential of that energy through our experience individually and collectively. So it's a really beautiful thing to understand. So just coming back to the Hathors, as we go through that, we learned before that sound is a mechanism for the transfer of such energy by voice or by sound, and we kind of experience that in the Om when we create a really multi-harmonic sound pattern. But sound is not mandatory. It can be used, but it doesn't have to be used. Just sitting in the field of energy of higher vibrational coherence will have the same influence on us energetically as the sound does on our ears. So the sound we register through the instrument of our hearing, but we can be in a highly quantum space that we're not going to hear with our ears, but we're going to feel with our energy system. And the reason this became so important to explain going into the transmission is that most of the transmission tonight is not going to be through sound. A little bit of it will be, but most of it is by being in a field of energy with which we're interfacing, so that our own energy system can be attuned to it or aligned with it. Like the energy can have a resonance transfer of coherence upon our energy system. And so the Hathors and the Syrians are coming forward to assist us, and they're beginning to teach us to work with such quantum space tools for personal and planetary support. And so when we do unity field healing, for example, we're working with a light template that has a coherent field of order to support the restructuring of the quantum field of DNA. And so as we go into these transmissions, it's an expansion of that. We're going into really highly coherent fields of energy to begin working, merging ourselves, if you will, with that quantum patterning so that we can be influenced by it and bring the potential of that into our physical body and into the planet. So it's a personal process and it's an act of service, I guess, if you will, at the same time. So they will be joining us to create this quantum field, and it's related to the star calibration template that was empowered last month in our transmission. I was told that as I'm preparing this process. They said that the star calibration and the template that was formed in the last transmission creates a coherent field to which we will always be connected. And we can use this field to transmit energy and to transmit higher vibrational information and material. So we're kind of sitting in that template as we go forward in the transmissions each time. And it's almost like they're going to use that as a vector or a foundation by which they can send the energy forward and help us integrate and receive the energy. I was told too, there will be a transmission of a star language and an element of sound. It's not going to be singing or working with instruments or anything like that. There'll be I will speak during the transmission at some point in star language. It will be an expression that is in the form of a star language and probably some toning. But again, I'm not 100% sure. We'll go into the transmission and see what that brings. But I just want you to be prepared for that mentally so that you understand what's happening. And as we interface with the sound field or this coherent quantum energy field that they're helping us create, it will help bridge the connection at the interface so that we can really receive the energy into the physical world and into our physical bodies. So the sound and the star transmission, the language and the sound is almost as if it's carrying the energy from the quantum level of reality to a level that we can interface with it even in our physical body. All right. So that's an awful lot to cover. I know it's kind of coming at you fast and furious there. Another little cartoon that I use over and over because I think it's so apt for what we're doing. So I just want to stop there before we go any further and ask if anybody has questions. So if you do, you can type them into the question box and I'll keep an eye on the chat box and see what comes up. So the question is star language the same or different than light language? So it's the same. So light language is transmissions of light through the power of sound, and it's connected with star civilization. So it's languages of other star systems. So when we speak in a light language, it's the same as a star language. That was Ascension 101 graduate level. Thank you, top to bottom. Thank you, Sheila. Do we need to have the prior transmissions? No, you don't, because your higher self will always govern the integration of the energy. You can go backwards and do transmissions that came before this transmission. This transmission will help the integration of those transmissions, and those transmissions will empower the reception of this transmission. But they do not have to be done in sequence, which is really interesting, but that's what the Syrians told me. What about the Christic spiral serving humanity at this time? So that's a very interesting question from Shalahim. And we're going to go into that a little bit more in the next transmission when we work with the Christ grid or the Master's grid, which is where we're heading in the series of transmissions. It's 4:44 for Eric. Yeah, that's great. What can we do in our regular daily practice to help with the movement of energy to help Gaia? The greatest thing we can do, any one of us, to help Gaia, as we think, to help Gaia move forward through this ascension process, is to take responsibility for our own ascension journey. And so as we move into a space of spiritual mastery, as we learn to feel the vibration of being in that state and learn to hold it in our body and to go forward in the world in a way that holds that energy in our body, we become a resonator. So the energy we hold is like planting a seed of energy on the planet. And as we hold that vibration in our space, it creates a space where Gaia is supported in holding that energy too. And it becomes something that helps other people and everybody on the earth and the earth herself be in resonance with the forward movement of energy. That's a big question. We can look at lots of things, but I'm trying to give a summary there, Abigail. Is it a transmission that should be repeated? They can be, and many people do like to repeat them. So I find them very powerful from the word go. But a lot of people will sit and repeat the transmissions and often have deeper or different experiences each time they have the transmission. So certainly feel free to do that. You don't have to do it, but if you want to do it, if it feels right in you to do it, certainly feel free to repeat it any number of times. I do light language and have since as a child. How often should I speak? When your soul compels you. So if you're going into meditation and you feel somehow speaking in language is going to help you move into the depth of that meditation, go ahead and speak the language. Sometimes if I'm going to do something creative, I'll speak energy and then I'll start to do the physical activity. And so somehow the energy helps create a field in which I can step into in a physical way. So I'd encourage you to do that, Lori. If you're doing creative things, if you're going to write something, if you're going to have a conversation with somebody, and you feel urged or inspired to speak in light language before you do it, and then just see what happens. Practice and send me an email. I'd be curious. Is it common that the transmissions make you sleepy and fall deeply asleep? This has happened to me. Absolutely, yes. So very many times when I do any kind of meditation, People will have two experiences. They'll say, I get so energized, everything in me is vibrating, etc. Or people will say, I fall asleep and I don't remember anything at all. It's almost like it never happened. Sometimes our soul will take our consciousness and put it aside. It's almost like it parks our consciousness. And it's to get it out of the way to help us receive energy and information that is powerful and more easily received if we're not observing it and not in the way, if you will. So the soul has this tendency to kind of knock us out sometimes when we're receiving really high level of vibrational energy. It doesn't mean you have to experience that, but that's what happens to me. When I'm getting some of my biggest downloads of information and stuff, I will become so dopey that I'm almost not even registering what's happening in the 3D world. Or I'll fall asleep and kind of wake up and remember the energy of what happened. So in the transmissions, it's very, very common for people to do that. And if so, don't fight it, don't resist it. Kind of let your body slip into what it wants to do. Work with it, don't fight it. Just move into the space of relaxing into that energy. How do we learn light language? It's a spontaneous thing. It comes automatically. You'll see in the process tonight when it comes up. I don't do a lot of light language. I was told it'll be part of this transmission. But my experience with it is it will come whenever we are bringing forward something new. So I'm often speaking light language because it's like speaking into form. It's like creating a light geometry into which the rest of the information would flow. So I would use it in a creative sense or in a supportive sense, like I was saying earlier. I'm glad you're speaking about falling asleep. It happens to me frequently too. I look like I sleep through every conference I go through. How to deal with anxiety as an ascension symptom. So it's very common for people to feel anxiety in the ascension journey. Your body is being exposed to energy that's shaking you at a physical level of being in a way. And so the anxiety is part of the holding on of the energy. And as the ascension energy integrates, it lifts the anxiety so that you can feel a sense of peace and expansion again. So the greatest advice to that is not to resist the anxiety, but let the energy of the meditation move into the anxiety. Let it flow like water in the soil. Imagine you're pouring water on the soil and the earth is shaking, but the water kind of sinks in and it seeps into the energy of the anxiety, and it lifts it, and you'll see that the anxiety begins to ease, to settle, and you'll begin to feel that peace that is really your own inherent spiritual nature. Is there a connection between Hathor and Sekhmet? Yes, there is. It's a wonderful question. Sekhmet is the energy of purity, of thought and truth. It's many things, but I've had a few very powerful experiences with the goddess Sekhmet. And to me, I see Sekhmet as an energy of liberation. It's the mother that can tell us everything we need to hear exactly when we hear it, to get out of our own way or to release our restrictions or to break ourselves free from bondage of false beliefs. It's the energy of spiritual liberation and truth. And Hathor, as the universal mother, Sekhmet is an aspect of the universal mother. Remember, there's two sides to creation and reality. There's birth and death. There's rise and fall. There's life forming and life dissolving. And so all the patterns within us as we're conscious incarnate beings, some of them have to fall. So it's the energy that can help us move through those kinds of restrictions. Write the name of the goddess you referred to. So I believe it's Hathor, and that's Hathor. Many times I feel vibrations in my hands and fingers. Is this a sign of connecting to the quantum field or frequency increasing? I never know when it happens, but I enjoy it. Yeah, it's usually your body is registering change. So you know how when you put your hand in cold water, if you took your hand and put it in, you would feel immediately how cold the water is. But if you leave your hand there for a while, you adapt to the energy of the cold and you stop feeling the cold. And you realize your nervous system is really attuned to registering change. not to reality, but to change in reality. And so when energy is working with us and there's a powerful energy interfacing with our system, we'll often feel the tingling, we'll feel the vibrations, we'll feel a flow of energy in our system. So I know, for example, in many of the transmissions that people feel an energy come in and it stirs and tickles and makes our cells be awake. So you'll feel that because you're registering the change as we interface with the energy. So quick answer to that. So we'll make some more time at the end for some questions. We're going to take a break in a moment. I'm just going to talk about a few things really quickly to kind of get us ready before we go into the break, because they're questions people always ask. So I just kind of put it together in a quick presentation. People will say, John, there's so much information about healing and how do I learn about healing and so on. This is a book I've written. It's an introduction to unity field healing as a process. But what this book really is kind of an encyclopedia of healing. It's the essentials that you need to understand to go from being in a 3D world of healing up to the threshold of working in a quantum space for healing. So it talks about the human energy system, psychology, the ascension process, the earth changes, so on and so forth, all the way up to working with quantum DNA and to the threshold of working with unity field healing. You'll notice it's volume 1 because there will be a second book that talks more specifically about unity field healing when we're ready to receive the fullness of that information. So some of it, of course, is already part of the unity field healing work, but the information that's guiding this work is changing and evolving all the time. So the book is available on Amazon, and I also have it on my website. So I just want you to know that it exists if you're looking for a source or you want to recommend something to somebody who's trying to learn about healing without having to go to 50 different books and 50 different resources. And it kind of pairs through what's not important and highlights what is important. And I see all the beautiful comments there. Thank you for all of that. People ask about unity field healing, and the best thing to do for this is to go to the website. If you're new to it, go to the website and read information around it. It's a form of energy medicine that came to me through a series of visions. It works with a template that you see here on the lower right called the Unity Field Healing Template. And this pattern is an active light geometry that works within the unity field process to help people go through energetic transformations. And the work presented in 2 ways. It was first done by audios. So I created a series of 3 audios that you listen to and you go through the sessions one at a time. The work was also, then I was guided, if you will, to begin to attune practitioners to begin working with the sessions as practitioners. So I do attunements where people go through the energy process of the practitioner training and become practitioners so that they can deliver, if you will, or transfer the energy of the sessions in a practice format. And I know many of you guys are practitioners. So I don't want to take too much time on that, but you can read all about it and you can order sessions or you can connect with practitioners. There's a page of people who do the sessions either live or at a distance on the Unity Field Healing site. So just be aware that all that exists for you. This is the opening page to the Unity Field Healing website. It's unityfieldhealing.com. And if you go onto the page, you'll see a bar at the top, and the Syrian Blue-White Collective is the section where all the information is presented with that's related to the Syrian transmission. So if you kind of hover over it, a drop box will come down and you'll see an introduction, a little note about the transmission events. This is the recordings. So this is YouTube. It's a catalog of YouTube videos of all the earlier transmissions. And then the channel part of the message that comes through in each transmission is typed out. And then the actual channel is also recorded here in the print form. So there's a lot of resources around the transmissions here. And on YouTube, all the videos are also posted. So if you go to Unity Field Healing on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel and have access there also to all of the transmissions. And on the same webpage, you'll see another button beside the Syrian transmissions, that's the store. And in the store, you'll be able to find all the other kinds of products that are related to the healing work. So people ask questions about this all the time. So the Unity Field Healing bracelets are a beautiful composition of stones that were selectively chosen for their property and put in an arrangement that mimics the energy flow and healing of Unity Field Healing. And they're prepared by Tracy, who's online tonight with us, and my assistant extraordinaire. And she's also a crystal master, and she prepares these, and then the bracelets are charged with the template of the Unity Field Healing. We also have an oil that's made from a preparation of 17 essential oils, and we create with that a base fragrance that's used to create two different products. One is Essence, which is an oil blend that you can use a little roller to apply to your skin, and there's a room spray called Aura. And so they're prepared on the foundation of this 17 essential oil blend that is known as the Unity Field Healing Essential Oil Blend. All of the access to register for the transmissions would be here in the events. So keep going across the scroll bar. If you go to events, it's where you would register for practitioner training and other tools, that events that are coming up. And it's also where all the transmissions are listed. So you can go there if you're going to sign up for future transmissions and you can't find them. And then interesting for this particular work, since the work evolved, there were two other products that were created. One is called the Syrian Blue-White Collective bracelet. And this is a beautiful bracelet. It's made of lapis and agate, gold druzy, and gold and quartz, and or apatite, pardon me, I said agate. Apatite and lapis. And if you look carefully here, you'll see the gold with the lapis makes a triangle, and the apatite with the gold makes a triangle. So we have two interlocking triangles in the geometry of a Star of David. And quartz is a transmitter energy. So it's transmitting the high vibration that's contained in the lapis and the apatite through the form of this sacred geometry. So you can kind of see how there's a coherence that's built into all the bracelets. It's not just an ornament, if you will. It's a, it's a bracelet that has a vibration and a property. And then there's also the Syrian Blue-White Collective Gaia Essence. And this is an essence that you take. It's a charged structure that's built on the crystals that are contained within this bracelet. And this is for internal use. It's drops that you take like a tincture, and you can take 10 drops a day kind of thing, but it's to carry the vibration that's contained within the Syrian geometrical bracelet formation in water form, so that you can take the vibration internally as well as wear externally. And so all that's available in the store. So that's enough on that. And for practitioner training, the training programs have been postponed a little bit because of the COVID event and what have you. So our spring trainings have been postponed. One of them has moved forward to September. I created another one in November, and they're both now sold out here in Ottawa. So I opened up a third one in December of next year. So hopefully by September, we'll be able to get together in person. And there's the December training is about half sold out at this point. So there's still 10 places opening. And Sheila Tillich, my great friend from Rochester, New York, sister extraordinaire, is hosting me in Rochester for a training. And in October, and there's still a few places left in that training. So December and October will both have openings if you're interested in them. And then future transmissions, if you are wanting to subscribe to the future transmissions, they flow month to month. And so if you go into the events page on Unity Field Healing, then all of and you click here where it says the Ascension transmissions, you click here, it'll take you right down to the bottom of the page to the transmission section. And then all the events are listed here one after the other. So as old ones expire, they're taken off. And as new ones are formed, they're added. And the button will take you right to the registration for that transmission. So you can sign up for them one at a time or a bunch at a time as you prefer. And the next transmission will be in June. It's at the end of June. It's called Attuning to the Master's Grid in Christ Consciousness. And then in July, the Merkaba Revealed. In August, it's Soul Star Integration. And September 24th, Earth Mother, Star Mother Union, Birthing the Divine Child. So you can see how they're all moving forward in a pattern that is amazing to see revealed as we go through the transmissions, how one builds on another and how it's helping us move forward in the energy process of the ascension that we're living. And so I'm so, so grateful to each and every one of you for being a part of it and for supporting the work in this way. So let's take a little break there. What time are we at? It's 8:04. So why don't we take a break for about 20 minutes and we will come back. I'll take about 5 minutes to maybe answer any questions, or if anybody has anything they want to discuss, quickly before we go into the transmission. And then we'll spend the last hour doing the meditation and the transmission together. So let's take a little break. I have 8:05. Let's meet back here at 8:25 Eastern, or in 20 minutes from now, and we will go ahead and start our transmission. Okay, so we'll take a little break. I'll just put my mic on mute and stop my video, and then we'll come back in 20 minutes. Okay, thanks everybody. All right, welcome back, everybody. Just while we were on break, there were a few questions that came in. So, I'll take a minute or two here just to answer a couple of the questions before we get started. So, I where do we go? So question from Terry, is it okay to lie down when you do the transmissions? So the answer to that is absolutely yes. When you lie down, your body tends to relax and go into a profound state of relaxation. So if you feel, some people like to sit up, they feel they receive it best sitting. Other people really like to lie down. And if this is what you're inclined to do, then by all means, you should certainly do that. The next question is, are the feelings of anxiety and anger that came up before COVID, is it and then a feeling of calm within me? Is this part of the ascension process? Absolutely, yes. There are many, many emotions that are being stirred by this experience. And so just don't judge yourself in any way. Just allow yourself naturally to go through the experiences that you're feeling and the emotions that you're feeling. Kind of think about it as them surfacing up, come up, they wash out of you, and you move back into that space of calm. And if you've been in a place where you're experiencing that calm and serenity all the time, that's even better. That's so much the better. But don't judge anything, just allow it to be what it is. Don't judge others for the experiences they're going through. Just kind of ride the wave and always go back into that inner space of peace and understanding within yourself. What role do thoughts and words play in our responsibility to elevate our vibration and raise our consciousness? They play an important role, but not to the point where we need to be afraid of our words and thoughts. Sometimes I see people learning about the power of thought and word and becoming afraid of thoughts they have or words that they say that they're going to bear a negative influence on them in some way. Thoughts pass through your mind, thoughts come and go all the time. And it's not important that you have a thought, it's important that you don't hold on to a thought or you don't continuously empower a thought. So, for example, if you have a thought that something bad might happen to you, it doesn't mean it will, but don't keep thinking it will and don't become afraid it will, or you end up empowering the thought form. You kind of see how that happens. So, do your very best to keep your thoughts positive, speak to yourself in a very high consciousness, speak to you of your health and your well being, your happiness, your peace, the kindness you know in you. Speak to yourself and to all of life in a very affirming way. But don't be afraid of other thoughts and feelings that may surface. Kind of let them bubble up and surface out. That's a whole workshop, I think, on its own, but I'll just answer it briefly in that way. Are there plans to come to Australia? One day. For now, it's hard to organize events even here locally. And most of the teachings I've done in Unity Field Healing are here in Ottawa. I'm doing a course in Rochester. There were plans to do one in Vancouver on the West Coast, which will probably happen in the future, but we'll wait and see how the process unfolds. And so we will wait until the COVID scenario settles down, and there will be some teaching in other parts of Canada and the world. So somebody is having an issue with sound. So I think, are people in general able to hear well, or is it common that people are having trouble with the sound? Everybody's hearing well, hears fine, sound is good, sound is excellent, crystal clear. So I'm not sure what's happening with the sound. Maybe if you turn the volume up on the computer or adjust the volume setting. I think the sound transmission is good. Everybody's seen, yeah, everybody else is saying it's excellent. Could be a little louder. Okay, so that's good. So maybe I'll turn it up a little bit. I'll turn the volume up on my microphone. I don't want to overbear. The microphone is so sensitive that you hear a lot of background noise if it's too loud, but I'll turn it up a little bit and hopefully that will help. If anybody is having trouble, you can let me know, Mary. Okay, did that help, Mary? You can type an answer for me. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Everybody else seems to be experiencing the sound okay. So I'm not sure what the issue is there. So that's that for now. So that's the, and so if anybody else has any final questions before we go into the transmission. Oops. Lost our place on the slide, so just gonna move forward. To the right place. So that's great. So all right, perfect. So we will move into the transmission part of the evening next. I'm going to center the microphone directly in front of my voice and sit directly in front of it so that the sound on the transmission is the absolute best it can possibly be. We're going to go into the transmission. And so for those of you who've been or at the transmissions or heard some of the other transmissions, you'll have a sense of how the transmissions unfold. And what will happen is on this end, I will go into a meditation with you. And I start to see energy and images and information, and I will tell you what it is that I'm seeing or experiencing in my third eye. And so it creates a templating or a pattern of the meditation. It's kind of like the energy of the meditation. And I'm like a CNN reporter in a way. I'm just kind of standing and explaining to you what it is that I'm seeing. And that will lead us deeper and deeper into the meditation. And we'll just go along with the flow of that and let it unfold in whatever way it's going to be. I was told that there will be the star language transmission and an element of toning or sound that will come into the transmission at some point. And I'm not sure if that'll happen during the meditation or during the actual channel message part of the transmission. But from the meditation, what we will do is we'll slip into a state when we develop a really powerful collective coherence. And it's at that point that I usually begin to receive the channel part of the message from the Syrians. And so I'm not sure if it's the Syrian Blue-White Collective or the Hathor beings who will speak in the channel tonight. So we'll see. It'll be a surprise for me too. So it's fun to do things together and not know. I have to have a lot of faith and trust. So I appreciate all your love and support while we do this together. So, so now would be a good time just to take a breath, kind of stop focusing on thinking, and just go inside your body. Go into a nice, quiet, relaxed space in your body. Close your eyes. And just allow your body to really let go of any sense of tension. You can move your body in any way you may need to, just to release tension or any energy in your body that wants to move. Take a nice big breath in, drawing in the energy into your body through your breath. And then just allow that energy to circulate throughout your body. And your body's receiving the energy. And what I'm starting to see is through the top of our head, through our crown, there's a channel of energy that's beginning to open. And it looks to me like a helix, like a DNA molecule with which we're familiar. And the energy of the vibration is a white gold light. And so down through this braid of energy, through this helix that's connected into the top of your body, there's a beautiful white gold energy that begins to cascade down over your physical body like a waterfall that's flowing down over your body, but it's also penetrating into the energy structure of your body, into the energy bodies that are part of your energy system. And so, like water sinks into the soil, this energy is sinking into your body, into your energy system and your physical body. And it's flowing down, down. And it passes down through your chest area and your belly, down through your legs. And the energy feels really beautiful. It feels so peaceful and so serene. It's like your body is being engulfed in an energy that's so peaceful. And it's as if your body is being embraced, both inside and outside, by the energy that's flowing into it in this way. It's like every cell in your body, every molecule of energy is being hugged in a very gentle and loving way by this penetrating field of energy that's merging with you as we speak. And as the energy anchors into your energy system, it begins to vibrate. And with the vibration, the field of energy begins to shine a light. It begins to glow. And there's a field of translucent energy that begins to expand, and it passes through your body, outside your body, into a field of energy around your body. And it's expanding and expanding. And now it looks as if each person is sitting within this really large sphere of light. And the light within the sphere is of a beautiful white golden vibration. And it creates almost like a shell of light or energy at the outside of the sphere that's golden in color. So it looks as if we're each sitting in this large golden ball of white gold light. And the energy is so powerful and so penetrating, and yet it's so peaceful at the same time. It takes a while to merge into the physical level of our body and our structures. And then through the top of the bubble that's encasing your energy body, your body and your energy system, an extension of light passes out through the top of the ball like a golden chain. And the chain is made of a golden light, and it extends above your body and into the space above your body, going into a quantum space of energy or a higher dimensional reality. And we begin to see the strand of light that is extending from each person rises, and it is as if all the chains of light merge into one common space or one point. And so we're all connected as these strands of light feeding energy into the ball of light, merge together. And it's as if they pass through a vortex or a torus through the center, like a donut. And there's a field of energy that forms around the collective strands of light that looks like a huge spinning torus. It's like a donut that's sliding down the collective strands of light. And the energy of this field is descending. It's moving down as if it's riding upon these chains of light that connect us in this way. And within this torus, the energy is spinning very fast and holding a very high vibration. And it descends down, and it appears as if it's sitting or hovering right above the golden sphere of light that is encasing your body. And in a quantum way, this is true for everybody who's participating in the transmission. And the energy field continues to glow and spin. And as it's empowered, more and more energy begins to shine off this structure. And the structure turns into what looks like a galactic plane of light, like a galaxy, with light extending to the right, to the left, all around. And the energy that's moving through the torus flows into this space like it's creating a field of energy that's moving in many directions at the same time, but creates like a flat plate, as if you're looking at the light pattern of a galactic spiral. And then descending down the chain above the level of the toroid of light, I can see what looks like the face of a Hathor being. And it's as if there is a Hathor that is coming to join each person individually to work with them through this transition of light. And it is as if every participant in the meditation is sitting in a room, each with their own toroid of light above their sphere of energy. And there's a Hathor being that has merged with the energy strand specific to you. And the face of this energy being merges with the toroid of light above you. It's kind of a quantum experience, but the energy of the being blends with the torus. And the energy within it begins to spin faster and faster. And as it does, you can feel it's sending in to the energy that is being fed into the sphere of light in which you sit powerfully. And another layer of energy or another space of energy begins to flow into the ball of light, the shell of light that is encasing your physical body. And as the energy moves into the sphere, it moves around like a smoky light that moves through the space of the sphere, and it's growing in intensity and in vibration in the space around you. And the energy is building and building. The vibration continues to build and build. It's very strong, but very gentle at the same time. There's a deep, deep peace and a deep serenity that's part of the energetic journey and the presence of this light. And the energy grows and grows in its vibration. And you can feel how powerfully you are loved by this energy space around you. And it's contained by this golden sphere. It's like you're sitting in a ball of crystalline light of a really high level of pure vibration, all-knowing vibration, all-loving vibration. And you just allow your body, your energy system to absorb this light. Let it sink into you. And as this happens, I can see at each toroid that's in connection with each person, the face of the Hathor being reforms. And it's as if the face is sitting just above the torus that's just above the sphere of light around your body. And within the face of the Hathor being, a beautiful light begins to shine in the area of what we would call the third eye. And I can see a double octahedron, not a double octahedron, a Star of David pattern, a three-dimensional Star of David pattern, interlocking triangles in 3D, formed of a golden light. And this pattern is being held in the mind's eye of each Hathor being that stands in support of you. And as the Hathor begins to focus their mind on this geometry of light, the pattern begins to vibrate. And it begins to spin and to radiate light. And as this happens, it is as if a transference of energy descends from the moving geometry into the torus of light above you. And you can feel the universal nature of this pattern and the template it provides for the ascension of humanity. And as the Hathor being stands with you, you are being supported to attune your energy to this higher level universal pattern, the living six-pointed star. And as the energy is enhanced and strengthened, you can feel your body adjusting. You can feel the energy you are receiving through the simplicity of this transmission. And as the energy flows in this way, the Hathor being begins to tone an internal sound. The sound is not audible to the third dimensional ear, but it's audible in your quantum hearing. And as the Hathor being working with you begins to tone more and more powerfully into the light field to which you are connected, you may begin to feel the energy flowing down through your system that is enhanced by the tone. And these simple physical sounds and tones help anchor the energy as if we are drawing them down through a veil of interdimensional space. And as I look at the Hathor beings above us, the pattern of light in their mind's eye, the star tetrahedron geometry, is radiating many, many different colors of light. There's aquamarine, a beautiful purple, iridescent colors of light, deep indigo, mint green, forest green, beautiful, beautiful colors that are shining from the geometry of each person. And the vibrations in these colors, the frequencies of energy that are in these colors are personal to you and your own transformation. And as this energy shines from the star tetrahedron, again you begin to feel a flow of light down through your body. And it passes down all the way through your body, and you can feel it in your toes. And as we hold ourselves in the energy that is being transmitted interdimensionally into the physical level of reality in which we exist at this time, we become aware of how we are being supported interdimensionally, and how we are part of a collective family, human and star brethren, who work together for the forward momentum of humanity. And the radiance of love and kindness and peace that shines from these Hathor beings upon us reminds us of who we are. As you feel the energy and the vibration, it touches each of us in a way of resonance, where we know too it is the nature of our own soul's being. And we are being supported in raising the energy of our earthly experience to a level of vibration that is known in spirit by each and every one of us, and of which we are being reminded through this transmission at this moment in time. And as we hold ourselves in this space, a beautiful four-sided pyramid of light forms collectively over the entire group of beings, Hathors and humans alike. And we are held in this collective creative space of interdimensional communication and transformation. And as we look above us through the field of energy and through the pyramid, we look back to the point of energy at the capstone of the pyramid. And there we can see a brilliant light that's shining as if the waves of energy radiating from this light are flowing down into the pyramid, from the capstone into the structure, and resonating or singing to each of us present in this space. And again, just allow yourself to receive this energy as we move continuously upward in vibration of the energy we are receiving. And as I look to the top of the capstone and the light that shines down upon us in this way, I can feel the presence of the Syrian Blue White Collective. And they are joining us in consciousness in this way. And a beautiful field of blue-white light forms at the capstone. And the energy radiates out from the point at the top of the pyramid in all directions like a beacon of light. And as the Syrians stand in presence with us in this way, they come forward at this time to say, dearest beings of light, we come to be with you in energy and vibration. We come in communion with the golden Hathor beings who are here to assist you and to assist humanity in rising to the potential of its sacred way. In a space of unconditional love and acceptance, where the beauty of the field of energy is so profound, so nurturing. You can begin to understand why the consciousness of the Hathor has been so revered. These beautiful beings are here to help you remember. To remember your connection with each other, to remember your connection with them, to remember the cohesive collectivity of consciousness that will awaken through the days of human ascension. And as they look upon you individually and collectively, they form a beautiful ring of light. And they look down upon you with reverence, with love. And a current of energy begins to flow through all of the various faces or facets of the ring, all the individual beings who work as one. And there is a message to be spoken in a language that you will not understand with your mind, but you will understand with your heart. And it is with the ears of your heart that we encourage you to receive these words.
Ishtai e ekamawe toya. Bi kadoya tehana hayamanati yakala iyoya he. Iato fi vashukanemanat keaya pate aya namanatayao. Ayata pakananya na ia ayat entia namanano yatiao. Ya tiao. What kalaya manu uaya namanakiteya iloyaya. Ifatayana naman iapatok ya let yana ya pia what the Ekafatayana manaya iskayakat katoya how to aya nyata tioyata yabakanana yata utuyaya. Vitayana Yahoo Yahoo Bekinia Ayu Yahoo Kutoyahu Yahoo Yuatahu Yahoo Yahoo Yatoya Benio Ohuyaye. Our message to you is one of union. There is a unity that exists in the cosmos that is experienced consciously in the unity of your own mind. As you move forward in vibration and consciousness, you will feel more and more aligned with the power of this universal way. Beloveds, we are here to remind you and support you in a field of vibration that will help you remember your way home. Some may say a guiding star of vibration. Some may see a beacon of a lighthouse in the distance. But this we say to you, the light you see is inside you. It is the power of your own heart, your own willingness to love. The peace that you know within the sanctity of the temple of your being that brings you in resonance with this union. It is a natural state of being that only feels difficult in a world where it is unfamiliar and misunderstood. It is time to reclaim your power. But power, dear ones, is not an act of force. It is an act of presence. And it is standing in the light within you that takes you to the threshold of this experience. This light is merging with you in these days. You are coming to know the power of your own divine integration. We speak to you of yoga, of union, Union with what, you may say? With the Creator, with the divine? You are merging with yourself. For you see, dear ones, the light of the Creator is part of the fabric of your very being. And as this light weaves and integrates through the quantum axis of your DNA, you are coming to know yourself in physical form as a galactic being of consciousness. You are so much more than you understand yourself to be while encapsulated in the form of a human body. But the veil between dimensions grows weak, and we are able to interface with you in a way that allows us to assist you in remembering the power of your own awakening. At times, it will seem as if the world around you is fraught with chaos and uncertainty as you journey through these days of change. But you are learning to walk from a place of knowing, of gentle acceptance, of compassion, of kindness, of mercy, and of peace. And although each and every one of you would shine these blessings upon your fellow humanity, we remind you, you must also shine them upon yourself. For in the compassion of the light in which you feel your presence at this moment is the light of transcendence to raise you up and to support you in the vibration of a new and emerging way. The light you see at the apex of the pyramid is the sun rising on the horizon. The sun is rising on these times. The light is rising in these times. We are not speaking simply in terms of the physical earth. We are speaking of a quantum field of energy and information in which the world sits and moves and has its being. You are here by appointment and by design. You have chosen to be incarnate on the planet for the potentials you are beginning to manifest through the choices you make and the power you are awakening in your own being. The power, again, is not a power of force. It is the power of love. And it is this wave of energy, as it integrates into you and consumes you with the fire of divine blessing, that you become one with the source of light that is the essence of your nature. These words are mystical and yet practical. They speak in metaphor, but they speak the truth. For you see, this energy is so powerful, and you are becoming familiar with your own interface with this field of energy, that you are learning to work with the integration that lays before you at the threshold of the coming days. Remember these words when the energy around you stirs or when there is confusion, when the emotions within you pull you in different directions, or when fear shows its face to make you believe there is something to actually fear. There is nothing to fear, dear ones, not now or in the future. For your time on the planet is transient. However, your presence on the planet at this time is vital. It is important you understand this and that you know how to return to the peace and harmony and coherence that you're feeling at this moment in time. At any moment in time, in any situation in which you find yourself living. These are steps of mastery. And this is the path on which you tread. Be not afraid. Be at peace. Be peace, the peace that passes understanding. Each time you volley into the ascended world of energy, we share together through these transmissions. You are acclimatizing to a vibrational reality that is different than the energy of your history. You are learning to allow your body to feel at ease in these vibrations and to release the experiences that would pull you deeper into the world of form. It is a time of integration. It is a time of bringing this energy into your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, so that you may feel and know in a well-footed and anchored way the power of your own divine presence. These are not words of ego, but words of wisdom. It is the light that you shine through every element of your being that represents the energy of ascension on the planet. You see, in knowing this, how dearly you are loved. We say to you, you journey not alone. We come to you in these times knowing the challenge before you. Yet it is your openness of mind and your openness of spirit that allows the communication and the support to take place. It could not happen without your permission and your intention. And therefore, we are learning to work collectively across the veil to support the ascending movement of humanity. And when you reflect on the majesty of that experience for just a moment, you will see how treasured you are by the galaxy, by the universe, by the Creator. We, the Hathors, have come to visit with you in this experience. but it will not be the last time we come to visit. As we move forward in these transmissions, we will play a role, and we will return again in the future of your timeline with new information and new processes to support you in your ascension journey. We say to you with delight, it has been our blessing to be with you in this way, and we look forward to our return in the days ahead. Collectively, with the Syrian Blue-White Collective, we say to you, through the light of the eternal sun, we love each and every one of you, for collective we are one. And I can begin to see the energy above the sphere of light in which each one of us is sitting slowly begin to lift. The torus of light around the strand of energy connected to your sphere begins to rise. These patterns collectively begin to rise, and they converge as they rise to the top of the pyramid. And the energy structure of the pyramid slowly begins to dissolve. And as I look around at each and every one of you, the sphere of light that formed at the beginning remains. And I'm being shown that this sphere of light will not dissolve. It will stay with you and support you as you integrate the energy it contains into the axis of your energy system in fullness and in power in the days ahead. Feel the peace. Feel the love. Feel the bounty of spirit that is present with you and will stay with you in these days. You are loved beyond measure, and so it is. And gently you can bring your consciousness back into your body. You can stir, move your body in any way you need to be comfortable. Or to let the energy move. Breathe in. Absorb the energy. And gently open your eyes. Come on back into the space. As we draw close to the transmission. So from the very bottom of my heart, I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for not only participating and supporting the work, but also for being you in all the ways, all the magic that you bring to the planet in your presence. These are really blessed times. They're difficult times in some ways, but they are an incredible passage into a bright, bright future. And for the moment, we will ride the waves of energy and transition. And if you just want to be quiet and quietly sign out of the transmission and just be in your own space, that's perfectly fine. If you want to post a comment, if you want to share your thoughts, feel free to do so. I will stay online and I'll be reading your comments in the chat room. But feel free to do what feels right inside your spirit. If you want to just be quiet and leave, that's perfectly good. And I'll post a link to the recording for all the attendees so that you can revisit it. And I also prepare a little more polished videos of the presentation and the transmission. And I'll send links to all the attendees as well. So you'll get first the link for the recording, and then secondly for the prepared video and the video of the transmission. Sorry, I'm so spacey, I can't talk. Beautiful, beautiful comments and people's experience. It's incredible. Oh, thank you, everybody. Beautiful comments. I'm so proud and glad that you had such powerful, powerful experiences. It's amazing we're becoming so conscious of the connection we hold. and our ability to bring this energy and consciousness into the world through our human being. Oh, I love you all too. Beautiful, beautiful. So touching to read. You're all amazing. Very, very humbled by these beautiful comments. Yes, we are one. That's true. Love and love, love and light. Yeah, that's true, Sheila. The transmissions keep expanding our understanding, don't they? We learn so much each time. We never know what we're in for. The cats are loving it, I hear. That's wonderful. Ah, thank you all so much. Yeah, it's nice to feel at home, isn't it? The cat is purring. The rainbow bridge was built to the rainbow body. I like that. People are slowly coming back to their body. Yes, we're all surrounded by light, Jean Robert, now. Yes, glory. Thank you, Angèle. I appreciate that.